So in this video I want to discuss, hopefully quickly, the idea of this strange phenomenon. This strange phenomenon. So the strange phenomenon I'm speaking of is relief. I feel satisfied now. And we need to recognize the relief that we're satisfying is relief. It's over before we know it too. Before, like I mentioned, you're pushing the boulder up the hill only to realize right when you let go of the boulder, there's no end. There's just a wall and there's a hill. There's nothing to tie the boulder up because that's not the way it works. You know, it's an oil slicked hill where you're pushing the boulder up um, to certain degrees depending on the issue and the problem, and you're just going up different hills and pushing different boulders up the hills. You push the boulder up this hill, it falls off the other side. You're going to push it up again, and or there's a tipping point, and it's just it can't stay on the point, right? And or there's a wall. It's going to either fall back down the same way, or it's going to go over the hill and go onto the other side so you can push it back up. Or there's a whole line of hills and mountains, two-sided hills or one-sided hills, where you can push the boulder up and down, and there's going to be different difficulties and different obstacles and adversities you have to go over, and different things, and how long and how hard something may be, how lucky you may be getting over something. So yes, the relief phenomenon, that's obviously the phenomenon we're experiencing, relief. Everything we're experiencing is a relief from a deprivation, whatever it is, satisfying your hunger, satisfying your sexual gratification, anything. You realize even the thing you find the most satisfying, it feels good to be satisfied, to build up your sexual desire, but you realize it's just you're really pushing it. You don't realize just how deprivated you are, even though you are really deprivated. Sort of like it's hard to realize just how hungry you were now that you're full. You don't realize just how deprivated you are once you're in how horny you are until you've satisfied it. You realize, holy shit, I need to get that out of me because that was really stressing me out. And you don't realize that until it's already happened. And it's something it's fooling. It's fooling. And not only that, it's fooling you that make it seem like it's something more, to make the game a little more tolerable, even though you're suffering when you're doing that. It's not as overt as being burned alive, being burned inside of a bowl, say for existence medieval torture techniques. It's not anything overt, but it's obviously you're still going through a deprivation. So yes, I'm satisfied. And I guess it draws allusions to the idea that, I'm satisfied. Yes, I'm satisfied now. Well, what does that mean until I find the next problem I'm going to have to satisfy? It's going to be here and gone before I know it, and I'm right back to satisfying the same thing. Like I mentioned before, life is one big problem, and we're on to solving the next problem after this one problem's already happened. And there's no avoiding a problem because life is a problem. It was built on a problem against our consent. That's how life exists. You can't get consent from something that isn't alive until it's already alive. But then you didn't get the consent of the thing that was the consent of asking the person if they could exist, because you can only get a consent from them once they exist, and causing them to exist is against their consent. So it's just a selfish decision to make to have a child. We're not saying you can't do it. Obviously, it's been happening for billions of years. Things have been reproducing. We're just saying it's selfish to reproduce. And it's the right thing not to be selfish and do something against someone's consent. And naturally, the only conclusion you can reach from that is to not have any more children, or no more reproducing. And that goes back to the whole thing of since it's already happened so many times, and that means that it's right, or it still exists, and it's happened so much. That's the way things work. I mean, so many people believe this. It's happened so much for so long. It's still here, right? It means it's right, right? No, it doesn't mean it's right. It means that it still exists for no good reason. Just because it exists doesn't mean it's right. And just because things are working a certain way, you're just applying a completely distorted view of perception and reality onto you're putting your own projection, and you're confusing the fact that since something exists, it means it's right. Since it already happened, since obviously the 6 million Jews that died in concentration camps means life still existed. You know, I'm alive today. I happen to exist. All of a sudden, since they exist, it means it's victory for life. No, I mean the fact that you exist is a failure because you're just another want machine, a need machine. But just because life happens to still exist, regardless of you having the projection of value or not, the idea that, oh, okay, life still exists, and since 6 million Jews died in the concentration camps, it was the right amount of Jews to die, or the right amount of suffering to be endured, and just because, you know, life still exists. It doesn't mean it's the right amount. It just means that life isn't going to end just because there's a lot amount of suffering, because those two things aren't related. It just means suffering isn't life, and life happens to endure regardless of the suffering. You happen to have reproduce even though you know life sucks because you're an idiot or whatever it is, because you had a weak moment or whatever. You know, things happen. You suffer, but they're still the ones that are reproducing, and life still exists, or there's a person to experience life still existing. You're the one to either see it life still existing or life is still existing regardless of your perception. Regardless, life and perception outside of us is still going to exist, and it doesn't need us to exist to begin with. So it's one of those things. It's one of those tricky, flicky kind of subjects, I guess. Discussing life and sentience and all that kind of stuff, where it comes down to all those weird subjects of, you know, value equations and all that stuff. Yeah, so, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I guess I was going to say something about relief. I mentioned that earlier in the video. And yeah, relief means something, of course. I mean, I mean, I don't exactly remember why I called it strange, but it is strange, because all it is satisfying a deprivation. Okay, so it's a strange phenomenon. Ah, I feel good. But now what? I mean, obviously, I mean, you beg the question now, what that I'm relieved? Is there anything beyond it? Is there anything beyond the magic painting I can put my hand through? Is there anything beyond the wall that I can stick my hand and see the waves ripple to see that there's something beyond this game? Well, I guess there's nothing beyond it. I can feel it. Let me see it. Let me imply. There's nothing of a mystery if you understand exactly what's going on. So you're grasping at straws for something more and more. So yes, I think all of us can mutually understand that this strange phenomenon, relief, and all the implications that come with that. I guess if I didn't get the exact thing I wanted out of this video, you can understand at least those implications. Relief. It's strange. I'm getting my relief, and you get relief at the expense of others in many cases. For one moment, so you can go right back to pushing the boulder up the hill again. Whatever hill you may choose, it's going to be another problem. Whatever the problem is, it's going to be something else. Or it's the same hill, you're on the other side, they're going to, you know, increase the size of it, or there's just plenty of, I mean, it's right back to the same thing. And you're falling down with the boulder falls down, and you're slipping down with the boulder, and you're right back to pushing it back up to the other side, and you're just doing back and forth, or you're going back and forth, up and down the one side, or back and forth on the two sides of the hill. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on too long. So yeah, the strange phenomenon, relief, and like I mentioned before, there's other things as well. So yes, I can't even remember, kind of, because there's so many different things whirling around in my head, and then the video I mentioned so many different things, and that's usually why they go on for so long. And these notes are kind of old and messy, and I don't entirely get all the ideas I want, so I try my best, so please forgive me for the incoherency, please. I beg you. I pray to you. Let God answer my prayers, right? To you. Yes. No. Anyway, yeah. This strange phenomenon. Relief. It is strange. Anyway, let's not say it again. So, yes, if I have anything else to say on the subject, I'll mention it next time. Or in another video, or whatever it is. If I remember something I've forgotten, I can always mention another video. So, anything else to say, I'll mention it next time. So, thank you, and until next time, bye. Bye. Bye.